fait une pièce tout à fait unique. Le plus beau navire qui ait jamais vogué sur les sept mers.
Stephen, Peter, very pleased to meet you here in Paris. Stephen, it's an old dream who becomes true, this movie, because you discovered the books in '82. What did you find so appealing in this moment?
Well, in '81, actually, was when I read my first Tintin book. And what I found so appealing was, because I couldn't read French, and the only book that was handed to me, based on my asking my assistant to go find a Tintin book, was a book that was written all in French, and I didn't have to read a single word of dialogue. All I had to do was look at the pictures. They were like perfect storyboards, almost like Hergé was a cineast and was making a movie. And a silent movie, like a great Jacques Tati film or a great Charlie Chaplin or Laurel and Hardy picture. And the dialogue stopped being important or even essential for me. And just the frames took me through the continuity of that adventure right to the very end. And I had complete satisfaction when I got to the end. And it was pretty amazing that at that point I made a connection with his art and realized that what he did for half a century is what I do as a filmmaker, and sometimes using the camera more than the written word to tell a story, and immediately thought that Tintin would make a wonderful motion picture.
Peter, the key for this adaptation is the technique, the performance capture. How did you make this choice?
Well, I mean, the process begins with decisions, with basic decisions, and we decided very early on that we wanted to honour, the drawings and designs that Hergé did, which is why we never really seriously contemplated a live-action movie, because, the DNA of Tintin, so much of it is that iconic artwork that he did, those designs, the line drawings, they've become part of 20th century popular culture, not just in Belgium, but around the world. The world owns Tintin as much as your country does, really.
Vous allez au-devant de grands dangers.
Quelque chose est arrivé sur ce bateau. Quel secret renfermes-tu? Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? La maquette cache un indice qui conduit à l'un des plus grands trésors de l'histoire. Bravo, Miou! Vous prenez la responsabilité de cette preuve?
Pas d'inquiétude, Tintin. Cette preuve est en sécurité avec nous. Dupont, où es-tu? Eh ben, je suis déjà au bas de l'escalier. Essaie de suivre.
What was your knowledge of the world of Tintin before to do this movie?
I first came across Tintin when I was 8 years old. I watched him on television on Channel 4 in my bedroom in England. I will say it was the French-Canadian show, which is kind of, I think, from the early 90s. And what I will say about that show is that the one thing that they did really well was keep the aesthetic of Hergé and the artwork of Hergé. And that's what I fell in love with, I think. I mean, obviously, the characters really, Tintin especially, his heroism, his courage, his thirst for adventure, his youthful enthusiasm, his willingness to risk his life for the betterment of the world, or to right wrongs, or to bring people to justice, was very noble. And I vicariously lived through him. I traveled the world and went on all these adventures from the safety and comfort of my own bedroom, which I think is how Hergé came up with it. He did the same thing from his armchair.
Accrochez-vous, Tintin!
Ce jeune homme, comment s'appelle-t-il?
C'est Tintin!
What did you feel when you read it? Why is it such a special word? I mean, the Hergé work.
It just transports you. I remember getting sort of the first book when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I remember it vividly. It sort of transported you immediately. I can't remember. I think it was probably The Crab with the Golden Claws. I think that was the first one I got, and you were in the Middle East, and you were surrounded by these great characters, and the sort of sense of adventure and the sense of sort of justice and what was right, and what all within the pictures. Even though I don't remember probably reading that well back then, and it didn't matter, because the illustrations were so great and so simple but so beautifully rendered, and I'd soak them up and read them for hours and hours and hours, and immediately wanted another, more of the books. And I don't know if you remember on the books, they have all the covers on the back, and you just scan them, kind of going, I need to read that one, I must read this one. It was just so exciting when you got a new Tintin book.
Merci. À propos, je m'appelle Tintin.
Haddock. Archibald Haddock. Retrouvez-les, tous les deux. Les mains en l'air. Vous savez ce que vous faites, hein?
Vous inquiétez pas, j'ai interviewé un pilote une fois.
How to find the key of this character, how to play Captain Haddock?
Well, you know, there's only one place to start, and that was from Hergé's drawings, because he clearly loved the character of Haddock and invested so much into the expression, all of the facial expressions, all of the emotion. A lot of it is there. So I started off there, and really the key is understanding why Haddock is why he is how he is. So we had to look and uncover underneath the dependency on alcohol and the self-pity and, you know, the fact that he is a walking disaster and a chaotic human being until he meets Tintin, and then he begins to be brought out and he has to face himself.
Last thing, Andy, a good insult of the captain for the Belgian audience?
Oh, 1000 millions de 1000 milliards de 1000 sabords.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for the movie.